Grok Bot has got to be the best AI tool that I've ever laid my eyes upon. It has basically replaced every single person in my staff because it became my chief of staff, because right now there's a method to control every single one of your agents, every single one of the things you're doing, everything basically in one simple overview. And in this video, I'll show you guys exactly how I replaced basically every single employee I have and how to use Grok Bot to the best of its ability. So let me quickly start off by explaining how Grok Bot works and what you're seeing right in front of you. So over on the left, we've got two different bots, a feedback miner and a new bot. These are two I just quickly made to showcase for the video. What's more important is the channel that sits right above it. And these can all be controlled from a little plus icon right there, new bot, new channel. And if you press new bot right here and create a new bot, what this basically allows you to do is if you give it a couple of seconds, it'll ask you what the new bot is for. This is, again, the first initial step once you get yourself Grok Bot, that you've got something that your bot can actually do, and it'll give you a couple of suggestions. Now, as this is loading on in, over on the bottom left, you'll also find a button that says plugins. You can actually connect your Gmail or your Notion or a lot of different other MCPs to Grok Bot to make sure they can get all the data that you may want inside of its, let's call it, system. But to explain the core thesis a slight bit better, what most people are using Grok Bot for right now is just giggles. They're using it for fun to kind of maybe ask some questions about their ex or to just try it out. They're not really using it to the fullest of its ability like you're supposed to. And you can kind of see it from the overview right here. You've got all these different chats, which by the way, over on the website are actually interactive. You can scroll through these and see exactly what these people are using them for. But what they are saying over on their website is that the whole idea is that they take ChatGPT another step higher, right? ChatGPT's core thesis, the idea there was you can talk to an AI like it's a human. Grok Bot takes us a step further, which is ChatGPT is for your casual person, a person that wants to ask, hey, what's the weather like today? What Grok Bot is for is if you're actually running automations, if you're actually running tasks, if you want to connect your MCPs and all that stuff, it can then treat every single one of these tasks as like almost an interface of sorts, where I really just treat every single one of these bots like it's a real person. And it's also got some of the nicest features that Claude and the others also have. Like, for example, if you've got a certain skill you want to teach it, you can actually go ahead and record it and one of the bots will know. You can also sign into all these different websites if you want the bot or one of the bots to act as a support agent. But here's what it really goes exponential. You can connect the bots together. As you can see right there, put a few bots in the same thread and they pass work between themselves. You watch them take action instead of approving every step. And with this method, you can basically get yourself a new chief of staff, is what we like to call it. Instead of having to converse in 10 different chats, seeing what every single chat is doing and kind of treating it like a chat box, but also treating it like an employee, you really just have your entire overview in one main chat where all your bots are connected. And so if you're using this thread, you're only basically talking to your main chief of staff, and it is check-in. Hey, before doing anything, ask whether another bot, like for example, a specialist like a research bot or a content bot or a visuals bot or a planning bot, already knows or owns this job or knows what to do. Delegate first. So tell that bot to go ahead and do a specific thing. Do it yourself last, only when no specific specialist already exists, and bring it back, return the finished work into the main thread. This is basically referring to a project, or what we call inside of Grok Bot over on the top left, a channel. Because inside of here, you can see this project crypto, right? I've added my new bot, which basically just fetched some information from my ex, and the feedback miner, which is actively looking at my Notion. And so if I now wanted to come up with a new task or I wanted to get something done, I don't have to go through every single one of these chats. All these different bots have a different subject that they're a specialist on. And on this computer, I didn't work it out too much, but to get the idea, I can just now in this chat say, right? So remember, this, for example, is a content bot. This is, for example, a log bot. I can say, find some new content because I want to expand my operations. And these two bots will now talk with one another. And of course, if you've just got two, there's not that much effort in doing it in one and doing it in another chat, right? Like it's two. But the moment you start having 15 different specialists on different tasks, the nicest thing is, hopefully, if you've set it up nicely, they will not really ask you too many questions, and it could just keep working and keep going while talking with one another, which would take you perhaps hours to set up inside of Claude to get such a properly integrated system. So as a couple of examples, maybe you have a sales outbound, a talent scout, a paid media, right? You could have these all running at the same time in different little sections. You could talk back with them, which on its own is already nice because, like I just said, it's basically a better version of ChatGPT in my own opinion. But this function at the bottom, this chief of staff, is really the best thing I've ever found because you're connecting the best of both worlds. It is now something that can take care of every single one of your other bots right there. And you've basically now got yourself an always-on assistant, right? It's just crazy. So now, if you want to get started with this, there are two main ways. One is you're already using AI and you're switching over. If you're using Claude or ChatGPT, you've most likely already got a ton of files over on your computer, and you can just point Grok Bot towards them or transfer over your Claude MD file or transfer over your instructions file. Now, if you're not using AI yet, it may be nice to start out with the Grill Me skill, or if you already gave a little explainer about yourself, you've done your introduction, then a Grill Me skill about a certain subject. What that basically is a very popular skill that a lot of people are using, is to make sure you and the AI are on the exact same page of what the goals are, what the methodology is going to be, what the plans are. So it doesn't start making up random stuff, random things, because you both know exactly what it is you want. Then, and this is again, I did a full-on explainer on the higher level first. Now let's get a bit more specific. Then get yourself your chief of staff. Inside of one of these bots, you can start talking and explaining to the bot, hey, you're going to be my chief of staff. Hire whoever it is that you need to get this done. Now, because I've not on this specific device done a full explanation of who I am, it may not exactly know my goals, right? Which is why it's so crucial to put in first exactly what it is you want to use the bots for. And you can see, or maybe you didn't see it as it was happening, it renamed itself to chief of staff, right? It is able to do that. And now, as you can see, I didn't actually touch anything. I'm just waiting here in the chat. I actually clicked maybe only the X right here. What I've basically given it as an idea is I will let my chief of staff handle my content for right now, right? That's the only information I gave it. It asked me where should it work on or where should it live. I said X. This is not something I'm actually going to do, but it's an example. You can see messaged content lead. What's that? Well, this chief of staff now hired its own content lead bot, and every single time I click into it now and press on it, which is slightly above here, you can actually press the button right here, right? Press content lead. On the right, which I've not shown you perfectly, but you can now see exactly what the purpose of that bot is. For example, Dusty's crypto content specialist. It drafts, edits, and packages market-aware posts, threads, newsletters, and whatever in Dusty's voice. Coordinates with the chief of staff on priorities, pulls context from Notion when needed, and prepares ready to post whatever. Now, as I was doing this, something pops up over on the top right, and I asked it, hey, is that all you need to hire? It's not, right? So now it also hired itself a market research and an operations person. But as you can see on the top right, it's got a chief of staff screen. What is that? Well, actually, one of the nicest things about Grok Bot is that it's got its own browser inside of it, meaning it can actually do whatever you want, commands, or go to the internet and look things up. And in my guide right here, which by the way, I will share over in the free Skool, which you can see in the first link in the description down below. I'll post this guide in there. I've given a little bit more tips and a couple more things you should watch out for, or that could be nice to add or think about. Because the more you'll start working with this, the more specific every single one of the bots is going to be on a certain task. And now, like I said earlier, what you can do is, let's just say we had the project crypto, right? That was like a thread before that we had of a new bot that was doing some sort of thing for me and the feedback miner. Now, let's just say that these were actually focused on my operations for one channel. Let's just say I had one bot running for one of my channels, or a few bots really, like a whole content team right there inside of this channel, let's say, right? I had them condensed. I also have the chief of staff, which basically handles all these other employees. I could now, again, by pressing new channel, connect, for example, my chief of staff and let's say I had another chief of staff right here, but for the purposes of this video, it doesn't matter. And the two people, or the two bots for my other operations, I call it project world takeover. Doesn't really matter for the purpose. Now I've actually got my chief of staff and two other employees from a completely different sector, and now I can basically talk to all of these different bots at the same time within one chat. And remember, one of the most beautiful parts about Grok Bot, the thing that makes this so powerful, I already said it, I kind of hinted upon this at the start, makes it so powerful, is that these bots all are really like employees because they all have their own computer. right? It's not just like you're using one device with all these different touch points. No, bots have their own computer, so they can work inside your apps and tools that run in parallel 24/7, even when your laptop is closed. That is what makes this the literal best tool out there right now. Claude, ChatGPT, all of them are good, but they can't compete on this front in terms of interoperability with Grok Bot as it currently stands, because talking to all your Claude chats at once, it's a hassle, all right? And of course, if you want to talk about all your files at the same time, theoretically speaking, you can. But when you think about it, it's not actually really an easy overview, because what I've personally done also inside of my Claude is I gave for different tasks people a name, or I actually call it my tasks have a name or an employee attached to it. For example, a person that's doing my research, well, since they replaced a researcher I really had, I basically just gave it a real researcher's name. And the same thing for example, maybe, doing my personal assistant stuff. I gave it an actual name because it's a lot easier to talk about a person's name and act like they're a real employee than just have them do the task without any sort of naming method. But so it stands to reason that since Grokbot was focused on this, since it was its main principle, its main idea, and it's got a device, a computer for every single one of these that doesn't actually eat up all your freaking RAM, like inside of Claude, it may literally be the best thing on the market right now if you need something that's interoperable, talking with one another. And for the cost, as of this point, it's at a really good spot. But anyway, I've left a guide on how I am personally using Grokbot and what I think the best ways to use Grokbot are in the Skool, which I've linked down below. Like I said, absolute game changer, but more importantly, there's a free trial. You can check it out for yourself if you want to at least give it a little go. I think a lot of people will be surprised with just how good it is. On an opposite side, if you're already using Claude really nicely or ChatGPT or Codex really nicely and you don't need to change, you don't want to change because your systems are already that good, hey, fair enough. Just showing you guys how cool this is. It's like a little showcase that's sometimes necessary, because I also am very happy using Claude, but every now and then I need to update myself on what the competition is like. And I was pleasantly surprised. Just wanted to quickly let you guys know that, and to see you all again in another AI video, hopefully somewhere later today, because this was pretty amazing.